This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 40. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is The Bamboos. The funk and soul band from Melbourne, Victoria are releasing their 10th studio record tomorrow, entitled Hard Up. In today's episode, we're talking with Lance and Kylie from the band about the new record, performing with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and what songs resonate with them the most. Here we go. Our guests today are 2 of the 9 members from the Bamboos. The funk and soul band are celebrating their 21st birthday as a group this year and are releasing a new studio record to celebrate. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours from the Bamboos, Lance Ferguson and Kylie Auldist. Good morning to both of you.
How are you doing?
Hi, Simon.
Thanks for having us along.
Of course. Thank you very much, both of you, for your time. Congratulations on Hard Up. It is the new record which is out tomorrow. It is the 10th studio record from the band, and it was recorded just before, to my understanding, most of it just before lockdown. What has it been like kind of having and sitting and growing with these songs for the last 12 months or so?
Well, yeah, as you say, we recorded this album at the end of 2019, which seems like even a longer time ago than it is after the whole world has been through. So we had, in my box ticking list oriented mind, I was like, I want this record to be not only finished but mastered before Christmas of the 2019 year, even though no one's going to do anything with it label wise or whatever till, probably February, March into 2020. I just want to know it's done. So we finished the record, mastered it, and then sat with it for a little bit. And then obviously the shit hit the fan. One of the first things that happened was the label said, excuse my French, was that the record's coming out at least 6 months later than it was, which I think was going to be around March or April 2020. So then, we had the luxury of sitting with a record for months and months. Usually it's a race to the finish line and you're like mastering it and it gets sent off to the manufacturing or to the label the next day and all that stuff. This time we were sitting around with this record for, 6 months or whatever. And so I was just sitting around listening to it and I had time to reflect. And I was like, there's 2 or 3 songs here that I feel like maybe aren't as strong as the rest. And given that we've got this luxury of time, we're in our home studios, we can do some stuff. We swapped out. We changed up 3 of the songs. We tinkered with the album. We meddled with the album, dare I say. But this is not a case of, and it is May the 4th be with you today. May
the 4th be with you.
It's not a case of the George Lucas special editions of Star Wars. We're just trying to make the best album possible. And given this time we had to reflect on it, I thought let's just make it as strong as possible. At the same time, I didn't really want to step on Kylie's toes. So what these 3 tracks are the tracks featuring male guest vocalists. So I think it creates a nice shape overall. I'm not sure what you would speak to that, Kylie, because I guess you weren't sitting there in the same way as me, but we made a great record in 2019, and then I just thought it could be even better.
Well, it was like an open playing field then, wasn't it? You could just add. I'm surprised that it's not 20 songs long. Because, Lance is an absolute perfectionist, but he's prolific. So, yeah, and like sometimes we'll be and then I think we did a rehearsal of one of the songs to play it. And I was like, don't you remember it goes like this? You wrote it. You wrote this. He goes, yeah, like I write stuff, all day, every day. And then I can't remember it anymore because it's new, but it's not really, it's written so long ago. Lance has probably done about 15 albums since then. So just to be able to get all these new things together was great, I think, for him.
Yeah, of course. When you usually do finish up with a Bamboos record, how long would you usually sit with it when it is finished? Like, obviously, COVID might have given a little bit more of a luxury to sit with it, but would you usually kind of keep it to yourself for a little bit and be able to give it some time and reflect on the songs, or is it usually like we're done, we mix, we master, it's with the label and it's out of our hands?
Well, I think sometimes, I would say most of the time the record is finished from our side and given to the label, and then there have been a few cases where it's sat with the label for long lengths of time, and which can be frustrating because you just want it to come out. But generally we give it away, give it up. It escapes over the fence to the label, and then it's too late to do anything with it. You might, at best you could maybe add a song if you're lucky, but usually by that time it's already going to manufacture, and albums have gone to manufacture and then just have sat there for months before because the release date gets moved and whatever. So usually, yeah, we it's a race to the finish, and then we give it over to the label, and then they might sit with it for a while, but we can't really. It's shut off to us at that point. So this was a real difference in that way.
The recording process for the record was slightly different as well, because I believe that you guys you went outside of the studio and did a bit of a country house record, if you will, where you're all kind of living together and recording together. What was that? Firstly, what was that experience like compared to what it usually is like in the studio?
It was awesome. I loved it. It was great. Because we've toured together and we've hung out together in, strange places for years. So it wasn't really a big stretch. I just sort of thought maybe I'd be a princess and I'd have a tantrum and I wouldn't be able to cope. But everybody was so lovely and we all just got on so well. It was just the best. It was just like being with your family, except, with your family can bring out the worst in you. So it was a little bit more like, you're at work, so you're going to try and be a bit nicer than you would be with your family. But it was so magical. It was just fantastic, and the music just the boys, there was nowhere to relax kind of thing, because they made every single space of the house into a recording studio. So every single part of the house had wires running through it. Even my bedroom had the guitar amp in there. So there was nowhere during the day that you could relax. It wasn't a house for relaxing. It was a studio. So we all sort of brought our own deck chairs, and I found a single mattress and brought that, and we hung out in the garden. And I just put my chair in the corner of the garden and just wrote lyrics. It was fantastic. And I could hear the boys playing. They got up. They were very good boys. They got up every day and they started at 10:30 and they finished at night time. And then I would do my singing and after they'd done their stuff. But it was like they all worked very hard, and it was just a really lovely vibe. And then we found different sports to play. How you have beers and you take the tops off, and then we played some sort of soccer game with the lids. And how you just, when you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have TV and you don't have all the normal things, you just make up games. That was just beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, I would say it was. I would say I only want to record albums in that way. That should be just our ongoing place to go to. It was great. Usually we're under the pump in the studio. The rhythm section come in for a couple of days. The horns do their thing, and it's a bit of a stress. You're watching the clock,
and we never lost time.
Yeah. This time you had a group of people in a space with this one goal to achieve, and that the camaraderie of that is so great. And I think one of the other differences was usually we would record, as I was saying, all the songs in a big chunk over a few days, and then the horns come in, then percussion comes in. This time we approached it song by song, which it seemed like a revelation to me. So we kind of threw everything we could till we were exhausted, till we couldn't think of anything else, to one song, and then Kylie would come in and sing her vocals on the top of that, and then sometimes we would strip some things away, but then we would move on to another song from the ground up, and that was just really a refreshing way to do it for us, a very different MO, and I think the record sounds all the better for it.
What was the original catalyst to take it to a country house? What was the thought of let's change up our previous recording ways, if you will?
We talked about this for years, like maybe even over a decade. We'd talked about it, and then when it came down to actually doing a record, it was just too hard, or some people couldn't make it, or blah, blah, blah. This time we planned well ahead, made sure everyone could come. Most people were there for the whole time. A couple of people had to come and go, but it was only an hour. It's only an hour out of Melbourne, so it's fine. People could kind of come and go a little bit.
Was that a place called Lancefield, of course?
Pure coincidence. But yeah, it was. You know, you read these books. Oh, you read Keith Richards' biography. I don't know if you've read that. And they, you know, the Stones went off to that castle and did those records, and people do it. And, you know, Elton John went down to Jamaica, and you read these things, and, you know, they're operating on budgets about 2 million times bigger than ours, of course. But it's just the idea of getting out of the city and I think being away from the rat race of that and going, we're just here only to make a record. We're going to have a good time while we do it, but we're here just to do this. No distractions other than those we create ourselves. And it's, yeah, as Kylie said, it was a blast.
And also because I felt like at one point I said, the boys said, "Oh, we don't need you today." So I sent a message to my family. I said, "Oh, should I come home and do some cooking and cleaning?" When they're like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, well, what am I going to do then?" I said to Yuri, "What do I do?" And he goes, Get your paper and your pencil and go and sit under that tree over there." I'm like, "Oh, how exciting." Just to be allowed to think about music only was so freeing. It was beautiful.
I imagine it would be quite, as you said, just being able to take yourself out of that normal space and have kind of the music and the recording part of it, like it immersed so much in your daily life for that time that it, it would be quite a magical kind of experience.
Bliss.
I'm curious, when you are getting together to write a new album for the band, it's not a duo, it's not a trio. There are 9 members of the band. When you do have a new song idea, how is that usually fleshed out, or where does that begin in terms of melody or lyrics, or is it different every time?
I think usually it starts with me going, a new album is happening, we have to do it. And so I'll sit down for a period of weeks, or maybe it's a couple of months even, and I'll come up with a bunch of really kind of grooves and sketches of songs, or just 2 sections of a song that feel good or have something to them. And then I will make a short list of the ones I think have something, and then I will present them to Kylie. And it's sort of like the equivalent of The Voice, where she will turn her chair if the song it strikes her, and I will offer them humbly to her. And then we will come to a short list of songs, and then we will then come together and work on those songs, fleshing them out with sections, coming up with a melody and the lyrics. So we did that for sure. But this time we also had a few sessions where the whole band came together, and we did, collaborate as a group. I think we had up to about 7 people in the room, which can get it can get intense because there's so many brains with so much input, but it can work as well. And I really loved doing that, and I love bringing everyone in, because the musicians in the Bamboos are so highly skilled and creative and knowledgeable in their own way. I love to get their input. So there's about 2 or 3 songs on the record that came from these larger group sessions as well. And, I just think that the collaborative, being more collaborative in that sense, even from the writing up, it gives the album it's much more cohesive and I think feels better for it. These things may not necessarily be tangible to the listener, but from the inside, I think it feels good to us to do that.
Kylie, how many times will you not turn your chair or turn your chair?
Well, yes, quite a few. He has so many ideas. It's like, I guess, and it has to speak to me. And I know it sounds like a weird hippie thing to say, but if it does, there's some certain songs that I just go, and Lance and that's the fun thing about writing with Lance, is that we just have a funny time and we just tell the truth and we just go, oh, that's disgusting. I hate that. Or I'll write a lyric and he goes, you can't say that. Oh my God. It's just like, yeah, it's good fun. And we just feel like I can just be honest and go, no, I don't feel it. No, I don't feel it. No, I don't feel it. So, but, he's so obviously so prolific that there's obviously going to be something that I will very soon after that. And he obviously knows what I like. So he's on the inside track there.
The band is also celebrating. So we've got the 10th studio record out this week, but also 21 years as a band, a 21st birthday, which is quite a big deal. I feel like for a lot of Australian acts as well. But Lance, I know you originally started the band back in 2000. Do you remember what the original idea for the band was at that time?
Well, the original, I guess, inception of the band was Henry Mars, who is a great musician and just sort of a great presence in the Melbourne music scene. He had a band called Bachelors from Prague that did a lot of amazing stuff, and he really is one of the original bohemians of the Melbourne scene. He started a venue. He had the Black Cat, but then he had a venue called the Night Cat, which is still going, but it was his vision and a beautiful venue in many respects, musically, just the look of it. It was just a great place. And so he would book bands initially to play a whole month. The residency was a whole month, and you play 4 nights a week for a month. He approached me and said, can you put a band together? He'd seen me play as a side person in a lot of bands, and he said, can you put a band together for, I think it was for Friday or Saturday nights? And so my idea was to make basically a Meters band, the Meters being the great New Orleans funk band, one of my favourite bands of all time, a 4-piece band. So I wanted it to be the same lineup, so organ, bass, drums, guitar. And we would play 3 sets, and our job essentially was to make people dance, because people went to the Night Cat to dance. It was that thing. So a 4-piece band with that in mind, and we would play 3 sets, and we did that for quite a while. We started in the year 2000, and we'd do a few seasons of that, and then from there it came into the idea of recording a record, a 45, and on from there. But yeah, the genesis of the band was at the Night Cat, and the Night Cat, though Henry Mars is not connected with it now, it's still going. It's still, I believe you just played there the other night, didn't you, Kylie?
No, I did. I'm launching it there on June 23rd. So, and the band plays in the middle of the room, which is a nice thing, like that's always been a great thing, that the crowd moves around the band, like it's kind of weird, but yeah, it really works, doesn't it?
Was the original intention, I know you just said that there was, like the lineup was originally meant to be a 4-piece. At what point did you kind of start adding more and more members, and was it always like, oh, we could do with this or we could do with that, or has there ever been a point where you thought that it would go over 9 and continue to grow? Well,
if I had my way, and I'm pretty sure Kylie would be on board with this, I'd love to have like a 3-piece backing vocal section as well, and we could if I expand, believe you, it would be awesome. But we're already a 9-piece. 9 people on stage is already beyond what is really realistic for touring and stuff, but we still do it because it just doesn't sound the same. It just doesn't feel the same. But yeah, going back to your question, the next phase was we added a 2-person horn section to the band to fill it out, and it just, some of the songs we're doing really were crying out for horns, and then the next phase was when Kylie joined, which was in 2006, a couple of years down the track.
Kylie, when you joined, do you remember, do you remember before you joined, your first impressions of the band, of the Bamboos, and what you kind of thought at the time?
No, I didn't. I hadn't seen them because I had kids and moved to the suburbs. But when I first saw them, I couldn't believe it. That it was like I knew all the boys, and I knew that they were doing this stuff, and I'd heard about it, and I was thinking, well, why haven't they asked me to sing with them? And then I went and saw them. When they asked me, and I went to sing at Meredith, and I couldn't believe how funky they were and how cool it was. I was like, wow, who likes instrumental bands? I was like, this is amazing, and it was so funky. Yeah, so I thought they were very good.
Lance, for you, what stood out about Kylie at that time to become the full-time singer of the band?
Well, Kylie was already somewhat of a local superstar in her own right, even at that point, or well beyond that point. I mean, I first saw Kylie, I think it would have been, I'm going to say it was 1994, I reckon, at Lounge with Curtis Lake. Is that right?
I was 9 months pregnant. I think, or at that point, I sang at the Lounge. I was wearing the butterfly dress, I think, and I was pregnant with Reggie, who came out in '94, and I looked like a tequila sunset, basically. This huge big dress on, and I was like skinny, but I had this huge stomach, and I was like, yeah. And I remember sitting on a stool actually to sing the Lounge.
I didn't think you were pregnant. I think it must have been even before, maybe like 93 or something. It was.
No, it might have been before. I sang there as well. I mean, that whole year, I was pregnant for a long time. It seemed like he was overdue. But I also did Curtis Lake gigs there for most of the year, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was around that time, that band was kind of, Curtis Lake were a really influential and seminal band of that Melbourne. Well, I guess it was centred around the Fitzroy scene, but you know, there was a little kind of pressure cooker of bands playing at that time, and Curtis Lake were pretty much the main band of that scene that were really a lot of people coming to see. And so I was aware of Kylie just from seeing that band and hanging around the Rochester Castle and those sort of the Evelyn and those sort of places. And the vibe at that point was that Kylie was already a superstar. So, and then a little bit later in the kind of later 90s, I had the good fortune to be in a band with Kylie, which was a band called Polyester, which was kind of coming out of that, more of that UK acid jazz sound, I guess, at the time, going into a little bit of house music. It was led by a guy named Simon Gray. So I was a part of that band, and then so I got to actually really get to know Kylie properly and be in a band with her and so forth. And then so I guess it was like a couple of years between that and when the Bamboos started. But then Kylie joined in 2006. There were a couple of other singers who came on before that, but they just didn't really work out. And then I can't actually, to be honest, I can't remember the moment when I was like, hang on, Kylie Auldist. But at some point, I realised that the greatest singer and the missing jigsaw puzzle piece was there in plain sight, and Kylie came in and just absolutely tore the roof off the Meredith Music Festival during our 4 a.m. slot, which is a fortuitous slot because pretty much any band's going to sound good to the audience. But I think given that Kylie just came in and did her thing with such power and beauty and conviction, people were just like, that was totally wild. And from then on in, it was, yeah, Kylie's been a fixture.
For both of you, in a 21-year history, you have had great success in Australia. You found success in the UK and in the US as well. do either, and I imagine both do, but is there like one or two memories or milestones that kind of stand out the most to you about being in the band?
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Well, for me, getting to go overseas and go on tour, like I'd never been to England, I'd never been to Europe, I'd never been to any of those places, and to go there. And as my brother said, you could be in the worst or scummiest of places or whatever, but and any sort of band room all around the world. But the best place to be at the end of the night is in the band, and everybody wants to talk to you after the show. So we just partied our way around Europe. It was fabulous. I loved it so much. I got to do what I loved, and I got to hang out with people. I got to meet all these people, and I got to learn how to say "beer, please" in so many languages.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I would say, one of my greatest dreams of all in music was to be able to tour the world. I was always like, if I could tour the world playing some of our own songs, music we've written, that would be like living the dream. And look, we haven't been, the Bamboos proper haven't been back to Europe or UK for some years now. Kylie's had a couple of trips, but look, all going well, we will get to hopefully do that in 2022, I think is the plan now. But yeah, there were just several moments on those 3 tours we did where it was like, we were playing small venues. We were in little tiny vans. It was definitely no frills, bare bones, grassroots style touring, but yet we were still, it felt like we were living the dream. And I remember those tours very, very fondly.
That's very cool. Speaking of touring, I know that there was recently, I'm just trying to remember when, I think it was March, where you played some special shows to celebrate the anniversary with the MSO, the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. What were those shows like? Because as you said before, I can imagine 9 people on stage there's always a lot going on. When you add an orchestra behind that, I imagine it's a whole nother level. It
was absolutely magic. I felt like the Little Mermaid sometimes, standing on the stage with all these violins whirling around my head. It was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I've never had anything like that in my life. I mean, I've probably only ever seen the orchestra a few times when, like they're in the pits when you're at the ballet or at the opera. I've never seen the MSO. I've never been in the middle of it. That was just, for Lance, it must have been even more amazing to hear the music that you've written being played like that, and for Ross who'd arranged it. But for me, I just felt like it was like, almost like bungee jumping, into something just so far out, amazing, like being in a fishbowl of magic. Oh, I loved it. Couldn't believe it. I'm so lucky. Thank you for that opportunity, Lance.
Well, I was, it was real for me. It was it felt like everything I'd done up to this point has led me to this gig kind of thing. It was really one of those moments for me. Because, I remember going to Hamer Hall in, when was it, like 91 or something, in my $20 op shop suit. I think I went in and had a ticket just for myself, and I didn't really know anyone in Melbourne at the time, and I went to see John McLaughlin Trio at Hamer Hall in my pinstripe suit, and I was like, this place, it was really like and then to be there playing, it was just wild. And, we do our little huddle pep talk things before the gig and kick everyone out of the band room. And I was just saying to the guys, it was on the second night, I said, I said something words to the effect of, look, just take a moment tonight, because you're surfing an adrenaline wave because it's fairly high pressure and you can't sort of miss anything. But I was like, take a moment to just kind of drink this in and look around, and because who knows when we'll be doing this again. I mean, hopefully we will, but I really made sure I took a few moments to just soak it up and go, this is so great and so awesome, and we're very lucky to be here. And yeah, we had a great time. Hopefully we can. There are plans afoot to take that around, because all the arrangements are done. And again, just to give Ross Irwin another shout out, he arranged all the stuff and did such a magical job. So hats off to him. But yeah, hopefully we will do it again. But if not, I would say that was a real highlight.
Yeah, well, we've done it now. I mean, I feel like the first night I was sort of wading in the water, I was swimming around in it, just going, okay, just feeling my way around. And then I knew that like my mum was coming the next night and some family members, and I was like, right, that's it. I've only got one more chance to do this. I'm going to surf it, like I'm going to get up, I'm going to surf my way. I'm just going to own it. So I was like, yeah, because you really have to give yourself a talking to, because it's like, what if this never happens again? This is the only chance you get to do this. And like, you just appreciate it for what it is. It's huge.
And own it, you did.
All the reviews that I have read, by all accounts, was that it was an incredible night. So hopefully there is an opportunity to tour it or bring it to other cities around Australia. Lance and Kylie, would you be happy to talk about the playlist?
Sure, for sure.
Usually on the show we would have a playlist where it's talking about some of the songs that you might currently like or have grown up with, or whatever it may be. It's always usually based on just what they're listening to. For this episode, we have done something slightly different. In celebration of the Bamboos' 21st birthday, we have done a playlist of your top picks of the band songs. There are one or two crossovers, but it's mainly a little bit different on both of your lists. I do want to start with Keep Me in Mind, which you both picked. Mm-hmm. What was it for both of you about this song that that I guess resonates with you?
Well, I guess it was one of the first songs that I wrote together with Lance and Ross Irwin as well. So it it sort of flowed out so quickly and easily, and we play it as the last song a lot of the times. It's such a powerful song. Something about it, I don't know. It's just it just felt like one of those songs where when they come quickly, you know that it's real and something really feels true about it. I don't know really how to explain that, but yeah, and I love the backing vocals, even though I do them all. But this is the song that I want to have backing vocals for, because it's really hard for me actually, because I have to sing the song and then I have to sing the backing vocal part. It's kind of like So this song, I sing it differently live than it is done on the record, because there's no backing vocal section. So yeah, this one, it's always got somewhere else that I want it to go. I can always feel it that it can lift and go somewhere else. But that's when we get those backing vocalists and we have a 12-piece band. Okay,
we're going to get them for the album tour. Let's do it. We've got to do it. It's in the budget. I put this one on because the Bamboos are known as a great live band and all that, and but there's this thing that happens with Keep Me in Mind. It's always our last song. I try very hard to structure a set list where this song is not last, but it seems impossible. It seems that the whole set list winds its way up and ramps up and has to go with that. We can't. We have ended on other songs, but it never feels the same. And the Bamboos live sets, I feel, are always cathartic, and which is what is worrying me about this whole concept of doing two sets at a gig, which is going on at the moment, because I'm like, what do we do? Do we save energy for the second set and both are pretty average, or do we do a half-assed first set and then I'm genuinely worried about that, because by the time we get to Keep Me in Mind, it's kind of going off, and I feel like unless we can come up with another song that has that sort of energy or has that thing, we will always be ending our sets with Keep Me in Mind.
Yeah.
It is a great track. It does obviously make sense that was one of the ones that you both picked. Has there ever been a song that, I guess, almost relating back to the first thing we were talking about, has there ever been a song where it's kind of snuck up on you, or you kind of thought, okay, yeah, this song's okay, and then over time performing it live has kind of grown into a bit of a personal favourite?
Probably Ain't No Good. I mean, Ain't No Good doesn't seem that it, you know, when we wrote it, or like when you wrote it, it's like we just sort of sing it like it's not a big deal. But on stage, like the bass is so great and everything about it just seems to feel good. Every time I sing it, I feel like the audience gets into it. It's really snappy, and I don't know, something about it. Just the live version of it it just makes you go, oh yeah, because we haven't played it for years and years, and then we played it the other night, and it's such a banger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm racking my brain to answer that question, but that is a great example. We did this thing where we put it out to the fans, pick 4 or 5 songs in the set, and we kind of had a poll, had a voting thing, and this song was I think it was number 1 on the voting. And yeah, when we played it, it felt good. I think it's going to go back in.
Good.
That's very exciting. Kylie, one of your picks was Hard Up from the new album of the same name. For you, do you find that you have a closer relationship with some of the newer songs because they are so fresh, or because they are kind of like still, you can, they're still malleable in a way, if that makes sense?
Well, no, I think it's more that because I'm a writer on them, and it feels like I'm singing my own lyrics. But I also wanted to mention that I got, I annoyed myself in that I think it's become it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because, Lance wrote, "Money rains from the sky above," and then look what happens. And then I write "Hard Up," and then we have a lockdown. Okay, great, everybody. Next time we're going to sing songs about, I got a backing vocal section.
And what have you read about a beach house in the last few months?
What did I write? I put a beach house in there somewhere. But yeah, I just thought it was like it was. Yeah, I don't know I think it was one of the first kind of songs where, because Lance and I try never to be political for some reason. I don't know. It's just that, I mean, I guess you get to a certain age and you sort of go, well, you have to be a little bit, because there's some things that, you get older and things piss you off, and it's just like, oh, come on, man. So, and then when you're, spending time talking about it a lot with your friends, I suppose it does come out in your art a little bit, and the whole thing about, what have we got? How are our kids ever going to buy a house? And how does, where's and my parents are farmers, where's the, they spend millions of dollars on water that they never get. It's like, there's so many things that annoy me, and it has to end up in your music, I suppose. But, I do really mostly try to write positive stuff, because I think it's nicer and more fun. But yeah, I guess it was like a little bit of a soapbox moment.
No, that's very fair. I understand that. Lance, for yourself, you had a good mix as well of older and newer tracks. Eel Oil from one of the first albums. I think it was, I apologise, I'm just going to check. It was from Step It Up.
It was, yeah.
Do you, I guess, looking back, and it might be a silly question, are there any points in some of those first few albums where, with, as Kylie said, being so prolific and kind of pumping out so much music, are there ever any times where you listened to those older records and thought, oh, if I could rewrite it, or if I was doing like a version 2 these days, would I, change this, or would I keep it as this? Or is there any times where you've gone back and listened to a song and gone, oh, okay, maybe I could rework it or work it differently?
Well, it was fairly confronting to fill out this playlist for me, because often I don't go back and listen to this stuff. Sometimes I do, but not very often. So to make a playlist of my favourite Bamboo songs was quite a challenge for me. But the reason I chose this one, and sorry, in answer to your question, yes, when I do, I always am thinking, if only I had have turned the thing up on that, it's too quiet, all that stuff I hear. But I mean, I also understand that, I want to go forward. I don't want to, I don't want to do a George Lucas special edition version of the Step It Up album. It was a moment in time, and I'm always going to make Star Wars references today. So the reason I put that on was because that was the first song the Bamboos ever made and recorded. And I remember hearing a DJ friend of mine play it. It was at Revolver not long after I had I gave him the test pressing that we'd done, and he played it on the dance floor. And I remember I was on the dance floor, and I remember sort of being around all these people, and he was a fairly eclectic DJ, a friend of mine named Kano, great, amazing DJ, but his kind of MO was he would go from a hip-hop track to a funk track, and he would really mix it up in that way that I really loved it to do that sort of thing. So to hear or to see and witness and feel a dance floor, dance to your record, amongst all these other hard-hitting sonic records that were sounding great. It was just, I had a moment where I was just like, yes, we can do this. It was just like a validating moment where I was like, we can do this. It can work. And it was just, so I guess it sort of set me off on a trajectory of having confidence that we could do it. But, back then people weren't making records in the funk scene around Melbourne. It was something different. And, the whole DIY approach, it was almost a punk rock type approach to doing it. We recorded it ourselves. We pressed it up ourselves. I was taping up boxes of records and sending it out myself. I really love that that whole thing of doing it like that. But, that's why I chose that, because it was sort of like, there was an audacity to what we were doing, and it was very sort of underground, and we didn't really give a damn about whether anyone would listen to it in terms of in a commercial sense. It was just like, this is what we do, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it hard and well.
Yes.
No, that's very fair. I can very much understand that. One quick last question. As Kylie pointed out, there is we'll somehow work out a way to share it for the podcast, because obviously it's an audible medium, but as Kylie pointed out, there is a Yoda in the room with you. You have mentioned Star Wars, or Grogu, yes, sorry, for those who watch The Mandalorian. I know that you guys, the Bamboos have had luck in the US and in the UK as well. Actually, I think everywhere in terms of syncing, having songs synced or used in TV and film. Is there any chance we'll see, or any opportunity for the Bamboos to possibly be maybe soundtracking a Mandalorian episode, or if the opportunity arose to have some music synced in a show like that, would that be something you guys would go for?
Well, I think you know the answer to that question.
I feel like it's a silly question.
I don't understand how some kind of funk and soul thing could really... I mean, look, I say that, but when you listen to some of the music in Jabba's Palace and Return of the Jedi, I mean, especially in the controversial special editions, it is like a funk and soul track that the band play. I mean, that would be like the marriage of two things in my world that would blow my mind. But it's probably not going to happen, but...
Did you get a photo of Lance with that? I need a photo of that. I haven't got my camera with me. Can you please take a photo of that? It's just the best.
Hopefully, I feel like sometimes when things or ideas are put out to the internet, that they're maybe not more likely to happen, but there's the seed has been planted. So hopefully this will be the beginning, and we'll send it to whoever we need to send it to, and put it somewhere where it can hopefully grow from there.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. There's the beach house in the song. Hopefully the Grogu podcast episode will take you guys to a cantina bar somewhere. Kylie and Lance, thank you very much for your time today. The new Bamboos record, Hard Up, is out tomorrow. But yes, thank you so much for your time and congratulations on the anniversary again.
Thanks so much, Simon.
Oh, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Lance Ferguson and Kylie Auldist for their time. The new Bamboos record, Hard Up, is out tomorrow. We've left links in the show notes to their website if you'd like to pre-order the vinyl. We also want to give a huge shout out to Naz at Six Boroughs Media for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of Lance and Kylie's picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday and Friday morning, with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.